Hey there, friends. The video that you're about to watch is most likely going to hurt some feelings. I busted out my Hurt Feels Hot Wheels shirt. You can find this over at ballisticink.com. This is actually a custom hoodie, but you can get it in t-shirts and other designs. But I wore this t-shirt for a very specific reason, because there is going to be a lot of collateral damage regarding feelings today in this video. There's going to be a lot of facts that people don't want to stomach. I source every single fact in here with screenshots from specific websites out there. People still are not going to want to believe or at least acknowledge where the real problems are. All of this is predicated from the shooting in Kansas City that took place after the Super Bowl celebration. The report is that it left 22 people with gunshot wounds. At this point, honestly, guys, we do not know if that's gunshot wounds. It could be 22 people injured from stumbling or falling as well because of the people running, and I totally understand that. But they're saying that 22 people were actually shot. I do not have any confirmation of that, and I actually doubt those numbers. Sadly, one woman is dead following this dispute between several people at the KC Super Bowl victory parade rally. Kansas City's mayor even went so far as to say that these were thugs who committed this act of violence, and I don't think I'm allowed to use the word thugs, so I'll let him hold on to that statement. Here's a little bit more on this.
It was 1:48 Wednesday. The Chiefs Super Bowl rally had just ended. 9 seconds after the last announcement from the stage, a celebration turned into a crime scene. You just heard the rapid gunfire. Audio captured on KABC cameras. Laura Moritz and Len Jennings, waiting to broadcast, both with headsets on, did not hear the gunshots. But in the crowd, people looked to the west. A second angle was rolling too from the top of the Liberty Memorial platform. The same gunshots we just heard, the crowd scattering, then the first calls from police.
TAC 1 to TAC 10, can you get somebody over here, please?
1:51 p.m. The crowd up the hill starts to realize what happened.
Keep going. What is it?
Around the same time,
When we tackle them, the gun come out.
those brave good Samaritans who tackled the suspected shooter on the west side of Union Station.
Now, that rate of gunfire that you heard, that lobbing of shots back and forth and that overlapping of shots, that's very obvious that it's not a, quote, mass shooting. Again, when we talk about mass shootings, I've broken it down accurately into 3 different categories. The rampage shooting, where somebody indiscriminately just starts shooting at people because they're trying to kill as many people as possible. A domestic shooting, where somebody is usually in the home and they shoot people that they know for whatever reason. And then, of course, your gang-related or confrontational shooting. This was a confrontational shooting. And the type of, again, overlap of gunfire is indicative of that, because you have people shooting back and forth at each other. Unless a rampage shooter is double fisting it like this, you're likely not going to hear overlapping fire in a rampage shooting. You're going to hear that in this same kind of confrontational shooting. Now, 3 people were originally picked up, all juveniles. 1 was released. I do not know which of these 3 was actually released. I do know that they did locate some firearms, and they're not sure which ones yet were used in the shooting, but they did recover firearms at the scene. Now, the wackos on the far left were quick to come out and capitalize on this. Again, they have to raise funds and gain new members, so they were very, very quick to do this. And of course, they were wrong, and they were actually, their messaging gave us the message that we needed to make the case as to why you should have a firearm. The Brady United Against Gun Violence and whatever the rest of their cushy name is stated that there were hundreds of armed police officers present at the Super Bowl parade this week, yet more than 20 people still got shot. Thank you for making the case that law enforcement is not here to save you and is not going to save you. A woman still died as a result of 800 law enforcement officers armed at this scene. So we only want law enforcement to be armed, right? Is that what you're saying? There were 1 million people here, and you only want law enforcement to have guns. They went on to state that if more guns made us safer, we'd be the safest country in the world. Instead, Americans kill each other at 25 times the rate of other high-income countries. Sorry for the typo they made there. This is absolutely false. You know this, and they know this, that these other countries do not calculate their shootings the same way the United States does. The United States tries to throw and cast a much larger net to inflate those numbers to make them look worse so that they can fundraise, whether it's in Congress or these anti-gun groups here trying to fundraise on the backs of people getting killed. So that's why we have larger numbers. It's the way the data is actually calculated and collected. But it's easy to disprove their story. If you look at gun ownership, look at the United States here in Burgundy, greater than 75 guns per 100 people. Look at the rest of the countries in the world. Not a whole lot of gun ownership. You notice that it looks like, is that Oman over there in the Middle East that probably has the same amount of ownership? I believe that's Oman down there at the tip by Saudi Arabia. So America has greater than 75 guns per 100 people. However, we have less than 6 intentional homicides per 100,000 people. So actually the United States is one of the safest countries in the world, including that Oman over there that we talked about a minute ago. So this completely debunks their theory. Once again, they are spewing lies and they're cherry picking data so they can make their story. Unfortunately, it's way too easy to go out there and prove that what they're saying is a lie and it's incorrect. So you don't have to dig. The first page on Google will give you all the information you need to show you how safe the United States is, mainly because of gun ownership. Now remember, I separated the, quote, mass shootings, which is what they're trying to call this shooting over in Kansas City. I separated these in 3 categories, again, accurately. Confrontation shootings. In January, we had 30 of the 34, quote, mass shootings were confrontation shootings. This one was not a rampage shooting, was not domestic, it was confrontational. Now this, regardless of what they're saying, we don't know what the motive is. They're still saying we don't know what the motive is. Yet they know that it was because of an argument between people. You know what? I don't care if they were arguing about the color of somebody's Air Jordans. I don't care if they were arguing about the length of somebody's weave. I don't care if they were arguing about what kind of gaming system that they like to play on. I don't care about any of that. I don't care what the argument was about. I know what the motive was. It was a group of people that had a confrontation and they started shooting at each other. That's really all that I need to know, because I don't need to dig deeper to know that it was stupid and silly, and it's people bringing guns to a place that are kind of looking for something to pop off. Now, I absolutely love pulling some of these sound bites from a lot of these news agencies out there, because not only are they funny, but it's always good to know what the other side is thinking, because at least you can predict at what angle they're coming at you from. I want you to hear this.
The proliferation of guns is completely out of hand, and we have politicians that are encouraging people to arm up and then spewing racial bigotry, conspiracy theories that push and radicalize people to do things.
I got to stop you right there. If politicians are pushing people to arm up and then spewing conspiracy theories, this guy knows who was captured. This guy knows the 3 people who were picked up. He knows this. Does he think the 3 black teens who were picked up were following the conspiracy of some white politician out there encouraging them to arm up? I mean, is he implying that the black youth of today are following the lead of white politicians who are spewing conspiracy theories? Because again, he knows who got arrested for this.
And obviously we're still figuring out what the motive is. We don't know at this point, but this is going on around the country. It's the damn guns. We need to make sure that we pass legislation to help ensure that we can curb back gun violence in this country, so that way you can go to a parade to celebrate the win of your team and not have to worry about being shot.
Then naturally, if I were interviewing this guy, I would be asking homies different types of questions, like, what are the new laws? You are proposing new legislation. Can you name a law that's not already on the books that would have prevented this? I don't think they were allowed to carry guns in this general area, right? I know that in many cases you can't carry guns to a big parade or a celebration or something like that if it's put on. If it's like a permitted type thing, in many cases you're not allowed to carry guns. So there were laws in place. I'm pretty sure, and we're going to hear from our girl Jemele Hill, big time racist, here in a second. She's going to talk about the laws in Missouri, but I don't think the laws in Missouri allow you to shoot at one another. I think if everybody followed the laws, the one law that was in place, you can't legally shoot at another human being, I'm pretty sure that maybe that would have prevented this shooting. But we had people involved who didn't care about the laws. So this guy here is suggesting that we pass more laws that these three guys are still going to ignore, right? Now let's hear from our girl Jemele Hill, big time racist here. This girl hates anybody who is not black. She hates them. Let's hear what she's got to say.
If you hear the side of gun enthusiasts, they will tell you that the more people who are armed, the safer we are. Okay, well, Missouri is a state where there's virtually no limit on getting a gun, no background checks.
Hold on, sister girl, I got to stop you right there. You just said in your leading statement, no background checks. That's a lie. That is an absolute lie. There's not a state in this entire country where you have no background checks. Have you ever heard of a 4473? Anybody out there who's not a normal gun owner, right? If you're not part of the gun community and you just don't know, let me educate you a little bit so that you don't fall into the traps of this racist chick, Jemele Hill. There is not a state in the United States that you purchase a firearm and you do not have to fill out and pass a federal background check. This includes Missouri. This woman is a liar. You want to hear the rest of her statement?
No training, no red flag, no domestic violence gun laws, no limit on assault weapons, magazines, no waiting period. So everybody there could carry. We also had a situation where you had over 800 officers at a parade, and yet and still the outcome remains the same because the part we don't want to deal with remains the same, and that is the access to guns.
I appreciate homegirl pointing this out, that there were 800 law enforcement officers there, yet we still had this. Now, she thinks it's access to guns. There's a massive elephant in the room that these people don't want to talk about, her or the congressman before her. There's a humongous elephant. You know what I did not hear from either one of them? Both of them claim to, you saw her shirt said black AF, black as F is what that means. It should say stupid AF, because neither one of these people called for the obvious. These two people are considered leaders in their community. They absolutely are. Whether you agree with them or not, whether you think they're stupid or not, it doesn't matter. They are considered leaders in their community. You know what they did not ask for or did not say? They didn't ask for the people who look up to them to stop shooting each other. They never once said our people need to stop shooting. Yes, I said our people. If you're offended by that, stop watching my video. They never said our people should stop shooting each other. Why do I say that? Are there stats to back that up? As a matter of fact, there are. Let's first take a look at some leadership numbers in the communities across Missouri, since we are talking about Missouri specifically right now. If you'll look here, you've got your bigger cities in Missouri right there at the top, right? St. Louis County and St. Louis City, those are two different counties that you can roll into one. That's going to be 296 deaths. Now you notice these are gun-related deaths only, right? Look at Jackson County. That's Kansas City. That's 178. Look at Greene County, Missouri. If you'll notice, the population of Greene County is bigger than one of the counties in St. Louis. 303,000 versus 286,000. Now, not bigger than St. Louis overall, but bigger than one of the two counties that make up St. Louis. Why is their number so small? See, it says 11 deaths by gun out of 303,000 people. That's pretty impressive if you ask me. I went over here to look at Springfield, Missouri, and they have not had a Democrat mayor, so the city has been run by somebody other than a Democrat since 1948. In fact, I don't have a whole lot of love for Republicans either. They haven't had a main two-party candidate running that city since 1951. If you notice, it's either no parties, independent, or libertarian. Currently, they have an independent as Ken McClure running Springfield. Again, super low crime rate, very big city. I wonder what St. Louis and Kansas City have. St. Louis has been run by Democrats since 1953. Since 1953. And they have massive homicide and crime rates. Kansas City, whoop, you're not much better. I mean, you are better, but you're not much better. You've been run by Democrats since 1991 with that massive homicide rate. Sounds like we have a little bit of a leadership problem, right? What's the problem? I mean, we can't get our hands around this. I think it's a matter of wanting to get your hands around it. I think some people, like a lot of us, we want what's best for all communities. We don't look at them based on race. We don't look at them based on political party. Now, those things can be separated by race and political party, and they tell a different story. But I wish every community, regardless of whose leadership is in charge, regardless of what the demographics of the people are, I wish them all to be safer communities. I went to an article called Gun Violence Disproportionately and Overwhelmingly Hurts Communities of Color. And ironically, these people make the argument for me. If you notice, they state gun violence is a major problem in the United States, as well as the key driver of the rise in violent crime across the nation. So gun violence is the key driver of rise in violence. That's kind of like saying I drink whiskey because I drink beer. Notably, gun violence has a disproportionate impact on racial and ethnic minorities and is highly concentrated in a relatively small number of neighborhoods that have historically been undersourced and racially segregated. Now, they blame this on guns. This is due to a combination of weak gun laws, systemic racial inequities, blah, 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 blah. Bunch of bull crap, right? What they're basically stating here is they're saying the obvious and trying to make it sound like it's somebody else's problem. They're specifically stating that gun violence has a disproportionate impact on racial and ethnic minorities. Thank you. You're helping me make my case. In that same article, gun homicides are on the rise in the United States, with young black and brown people experiencing the highest rates. Young black Americans experience the highest rates of gun homicides across all demographics. Is that the white supremacists that Joe is talking about? Are they sneaking into these urban areas and shooting black people? It says black Americans are 10 times more likely than white Americans to die by gun homicide. Oh my God, it must be white supremacy. Look at this sub-bullet. While black Americans made up 12.5% of the U.S. population that year, they were the victims in 61% of all gun homicides. Now, do you think these people had any solutions? Here's their solutions. Policymakers should dismantle racist policies in policing, access to housing, education, and employment in order to address root causes of gun violence. The country must invest in community violence intervention programs. Not one mention about how to parent the young people in these inner cities. No responsibility locally. Do you notice that they blame everybody outside the area and don't take any responsibility in the area for any of their own actions? Not one call for people to interact with these young men and try to help them out. Not one. It's blaming everybody else, taking no accountability, and offering zero legitimate solutions locally that can help fix this problem. So I have to ask, do they really care? So back to my other question, is it the white supremacists sneaking into these black neighborhoods, shooting all of them? 2016, crime in the United States. This is a government website that I pulled this data from again, 2016. Notice the white people. 3,499 white people were killed. If you see the next box over where it says 2,854, that's the offender. So 3,499 white people were killed by 2,854 white people. Here's the one we need to be looking at, right? Because again, the blacks are disproportionately being killed, 60% more than the white people. Black or African Americans, there were 2,870 killed. They were killed by 2,570. So it looks like black people are killing black people. The numbers support that from the government's own website. So if their claim that blacks are disproportionately affected by, quote, gun violence in the United States, and if I prove, like I just did, that blacks are killing blacks, then it would look like they need to look inward and look at their own communities and try to police them and talk to them. Do you think it would be that hard There's so much money already funneled and embezzled in these communities anyway that people are skimming off the top. How hard would it be to just earmark a little bit of money for a community program that actually goes to the program? I know that they're naming programs that the money goes to. I get that. I see it all the time. There is no way to audit where this money goes. They claim it goes to inner city youth, but it really doesn't. The numbers back that up. These homicide numbers back that up. They're not making the needle move. They're simply injecting money into these communities. A certain group of people get fat off of them and get rich off of them. Then they get exalted into political positions, and the cycle continues to repeat itself. No one is talking about helping these young people. No one is saying our young people are killing themselves. And I'm talking about white people too, and Hispanic people. Quote, leaders in the black communities that are saying, it's not our problem, and it is their problem. It really is. They are the leadership in these communities, and they're failing miserably. How would you like to see just somebody stop blaming something that they know that it's not? They know it's not a guns problem. They know that an additional law is not going to solve anything. They know this. I know they do stupid things, but they're not all that stupid. They know what they're doing. At what point can we get, and how do we get these people's attention and make them realize that we're watching you and we see that you're not doing anything to help the youth in these inner cities? Friends, finally, my heart goes out to Elizabeth Galvin, a local DJ who was also known as Lisa Lopez Galvin, who was killed in the shooting in Kansas City. She worked for KKFI. Rest in peace, Elizabeth, and prayers for her family and children that she left behind.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's so horrible.